So let's just be very clear. Your money is not safe, and it hasn't been for all of 2023. Now let me know if this sounds familiar. Typically, in the beginning of every single year, Americans set their goals, or what we call their New Year's resolutions. Now, one of the most common goals is to pay down debt, increase your income, and just become more financially secure. Does that sound familiar? If it does, make sure you go ahead and hit that like button. However, in the first quarter of 2023, many things were different. And Americans did the exact opposite of what we normally do. We weren't saving money, weren't paying down debt, we were not increasing our income. Actually, we added another $148 billion of overall debt. That brings us to a total of $17.05 trillion in debt. That is at least according to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. And that's what they said just this morning. Now, they are not saying that this debt is all bad. What they are not also saying is that this is going to stop. That's not what's going to happen. What they are now saying is that our debt is $2.9 trillion higher than what it was right before the start of the pandemic. And guess what? It actually kind of came down. But then it shot back up. You know why? Because of the stimulus that we are not getting anymore. But what actually makes this worse is that households showed even more signs of financial stress just this past quarter. Yeah, credit card balances went up, and we started to see, at least this year, delinquencies started to rise once again on almost all consumer loans, except for one. And this one, I'm going to show you a chart in just a second, but just for comparison, I want to show you what it looked like in 2008 versus what it looks like today, okay? These are the delinquency balances by loan type. I want to show you this. Look at this chart right here, okay? So look at this. So right here, and you can see it. Here's 2008, right here, okay? So 2008, auto loans at 9.7%. Credit cards at 10.1%. Mortgages, 8.7%. Okay? HELOCs, it's a home equity line of credit, was at 4.9%, and then student loans, 9.8%. There's only one of these that is actually lower today. Okay? Well, actually, all these are lower, but only one that is substantially lower. And that's actually because of something else that's going on. I'll explain that in just a minute. But that is this right here. That is student loan debt right here. So this is the fourth quarter, okay? All right, so this right here, not the fourth quarter, this is the first quarter of 2023. So you can see 1.1% for student loans versus whatever it was, back then, what, 9%, 10%. But let's go to auto loans. We're at 6.9% now versus then we were at 9.7%, okay? Again, these are delinquency rates, still remain somewhat low, but the problem is we are now starting to rise very quickly. Look at this. Okay, look at this right here. You can see this rise, it dipped and then it rose. Okay, that's for auto loans. That's for credit cards. Mortgages, we dipped and now we're starting to come back up slightly. Okay, home equity lines of credit, we started to go up and now we're coming back down. That's good. And then student loans, obviously, we don't have to worry about student loans. Now, why? Why is all this stuff happening? Well, what you need to keep in mind is that stimulus over the past few years has greatly helped out millions of Americans, been a huge help. Currently, student loan debt is extremely low due to the student loan payment pause. It's still in effect and it has not expired. Experts anticipate that we are going to see this number surge once the student loan payment pause expires. That will be no later than June 30th of 2023. So we're coming up on that date. But there's something else that is taking a toll on the American people, and that is their mortgages. Now, when we look at this number, okay, when we look at this number right here, let's just look at the mortgages, and you see it right here. This is the blue line. Okay, it's currently at 2.4%. Before that, the last quarter, it was 2.3, 2.1, 1.9, 1.7, 1.6, 1.4, 1.4, and then it kind of went up again, okay? The reason why this is so important for mortgages, okay, just for mortgages, and this is according to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. They say that balances on home equity lines of credit, okay, increased by $3 billion in the first quarter of 2023. Okay, here's the problem. Sometimes people that get a home equity line of credit, being it's a new loan, they are more concerned about the HELOC. Okay, they're more concerned about that. And so sometimes they're making additional payments to the HELOC. The problem is, again, and this isn't everybody, but sometimes that is taking priority and precedence over their actual mortgage. Again, it's a little bit of a problem. Okay, here's the other thing. And according to the Federal Reserve Bank out of New York, many borrowers would rather get a HELOC in order to get some additional cash out of their home, get some equity out, than to refinance their loan and take a small decrease in their monthly payment. Okay, because if they had an original loan of, let's say, 6%, and then they refinance, let's say at 6.5, whatever, but now they got equity. Again, a lot of things that can change here. But if this were to happen, and this is why the Federal Reserve says it's somewhat of a risky situation we're in right now, because what's going on is we are taking on more debt. We don't have a higher income, right? So our income's staying the same. We have more debt, which means we have additional payments. And then what's coming up is student loans. If student loans do expire, which everybody says they will, this is what the Education Department has said, this is what the White House has stated. So we know student loans and these payments are going to be due within the next 2 months. We're going to have to start making payments. This is an issue because if we have, let's say, a $400 monthly payment, which is typical, that's our normal rate, right? Our normal payment. If we have to pay an additional $400, but we can't afford that because we have auto loan, we have credit cards, we have a HELOC now, all things that we maybe didn't have 3 years ago, guess what? We're going to be underwater. We're going to be in over our heads. So because of that, some are saying this is creating a major issue. It's a massive problem. And this is why some say it's even worse than they were projecting. This is why they say your money is not safe. Because not only do we not have the money, do we not have the ability from the federal government to step in and help, the other issues are that banks need that money. So if you do not make a payment and you default on a debt, the bank could come after your car, they could come after your home, they could come after any other asset that you may have. Again, this is a major, major problem because right now, a lot of people are thinking it's okay if I'm 30 days past due on my car because I have to pay my mortgage, I have to pay my rent, I have to put food on the table. Yes, but at the same time, don't be shocked if the bank comes calling or a repossessor comes calling and says, hey, I'm taking your car because you haven't made a payment. Again, I'm telling you, right now, your money isn't safe. And if you're behind on any debt, either are any of your assets. So again, make sure you're prepared, make sure you're making your payments, do whatever you can, because again, things are going to hit the fan. And when they do, you want to be ready. Don't let people take your stuff.